Hello all. Today we will talk about dynamic material instances and how we can use them in Blueprint. Let's jump in. Let's start by creating a new level. File, New Level, Basic. Let's go into our content drawer, right click, select material. Let's call this M_simple color. Let's open it up. I will press and hold 3 and left click, or right click and search constant 3 vector. This achieves the same result. I like to use the hotkey. I will right click and say convert to parameter, and let's call this color. I'll press and hold 1 and left click, press and hold 1 and left click again. I will call this parameter roughness. I will call this parameter metallic. By creating parameters, we're able to control these values from within a blueprint. I'll drag the values into their respective slots. And let's change our color to white. And we'll change our roughness value to 0.5. And we'll copy that and paste it into our metallic value. So if you've created materials before, you might know that you can create a material instance by right-clicking and saying create material instance. Let's call this blue, where now once I've created this, I can use those parameters to recycle the logic from the material and use those exposed parameters to set values on the material. We're going to create these values at runtime using dynamic material instances. So let's right click in our content drawer, say new blueprint class of type actor. We'll call this BP_color change object. Let's click into it. In our components panel, I will add a cube. And we are going to set the material that we just created, the M_simple color, to this material. Let's go back to our event graph. I'm going to delete these two functions. So let's grab our cube. We'll pull off and we will say get materials. Then we will run a for each loop. We will pull off of the cube and say create dynamic material instance. We will use the array element as the source material and the index into the index. And then we'll run this into the for each loop. So this will grab all the materials in the cube, use those existing materials as the source to create a dynamic material instance. And let's pull off here and say promote to variable because we want a material instance array. So I'll call this material instances, or dynamic materials is a better name. And so this is of type material instance dynamic. So we want an array, so I'll delete that, and I'm going to go up here, change this from single to array. I'll pull out, and I'll say get dynamic materials. I will pull off of this and say set array element. And I will add the return value in here and the index into here and set size to fit true. So now I have created this dynamic materials array. I'm going to get the values of the materials from the cube or whatever mesh I have. For all of those materials, I'll create and set a dynamic material instance and I'll add it to an array. So after that's complete, I will say set values. And I'm going to grab this and let's say for each loop. And I will pull off here and I will say set vector parameter value. Then I'll say set, I'll pull off here so I can get context sensitive results. I will say set scalar parameter value, and I will copy that again and make sure to connect this target. So before we called our values color as a vector parameter, roughness as a scalar, and metallic as a scalar. Let's drag off the values to promote variables for color, roughness, and metallic. So these all need to be the same names as the parameters we just created in our material. And let's add, after we create the events in the beginning, create the materials in the beginning, we will set the values. So to review, we have a cube with a parent material on it. On begin play, we will create dynamic material instances from that material. And then we'll take that array of materials, and in this instance it's just one because the cube only has one index, and we will set the values we created on it. Let's make sure to expose these variables so that we can edit them in the viewport. And let's drag some of these into our environment. So I'll create 4, and I will set 1 to be blue. I'll set 1 to be red. I'll set 1 to be pink. And I'll set 1 to be yellow. You might notice that the alpha value is 0. In a perfect world, we might make all these 1, but I know that in our material, we don't have an opacity layer. So that won't matter for this situation. So let's change the roughness here to 1. We will change this one to 0.5. We'll change this to 0.75. And then we'll change some of these metallics to 0.5. And then I'll change this one to 1. So now, on begin play, when I press play, all of these will have unique material properties from the parameters we set in the viewport. This can also be done on construct to create materials, but creating dynamic material instances is super valuable, and you might use it a lot in your games. That's all for today. Hope you enjoyed this video.